there are methods to my madness. There are reasons I do the things that I do. I know it doesn't seem like that most of the time in this situation, or really any situation in my life. Most people look at me, like I'm crazy. Why are you doing it that way? Why do you do things like that? But there is reason. I do have a purpose. Maybe it's not always the best purpose, granted, or the best thought out, but I do have it. For instance, in the format that I decided on 6 years ago when I decided I was going to start reviewing movies, and the idea of reviewing them on the drive home immediately after seeing them. The goal was to give you a raw feeling of that movie. What was my initial thoughts? Now, as I've stated many times on this program, that has both a plus and a minus. In some cases, I've had to wait a day for various reasons before I could actually review the film, and that extra time sometimes is very beneficial. It allows the film to settle a little bit, allows you to think about things, make connections you didn't otherwise make. Every year, without fail, when I go back and look at the films I've reviewed, trying to compile top 10 lists, I'm always amazed at either how harsh I was on certain films or how generous I was to certain films. So there is an argument to be made that waiting that little extra time is beneficial. However, there are moments when it is actually detrimental to the process. Such is the case with a film like this, because I watched this film not that long ago, but in trying to compile information to create a review for it, I realized I could not remember hardly anything about it. It is, for a tight thriller, for a, I forget how they advertise it. They barely advertise it. It's one of those ones that was released. It's an Amazon film. Pardon me as well, I adjust this. This thing keeps slipping. I gotta get a new one of these. Anyway, it's an Amazon film, and it's one of those ones they release limitedly into theaters, and I watched it online. So there's not a lot of advertising, but you look at the description, it's like a thriller. It's like, to me, a thriller is something that needs to stick with you, get your heart pumping, really has you guessing which way he's going. This is not that. This is if a Tom Clancy novel met My Dinner with Andre. And yeah, so let's talk about this. I don't know how much material I actually have to go into for this review, so it might be one of my shorter ones, which I'm sure nobody objects to. Part of the reason I think I don't get a lot of views is, who wants to hear me talk for 30 minutes? But anyway, let's talk about this movie. So what is this film about? Well, before we get into that, we got to say that, once again, this was not planned. It's just the way these films work sometimes. Once again, folks, it's Pine time. Yep, our old buddy Chris Pine is back. Oh, Chris, I really would have appreciated if you spread this out, because it's just going to feel like I'm piling on. But anyway, so in this film, Chris Pine plays an operative for some American intelligence industry. They never outwardly say the CIA, but I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be the CIA. And news reaches the office that a botched operation 8 years ago involving a plane being hijacked that went really, really sour is being investigated, and they believe there was an inside person, someone tipping the terrorists in the plane off about what was going on and what plans were being made. And Chris Pine's boss, Lawrence Fishburne, sends him out to do some investigating, to look into the people who were there and to try to figure out who was the one behind it. So Chris Pine goes, he interviews one of the other gentlemen who worked there, played by Jonathan Pryce. But the most important interviewee is Chris Pine's ex-lover, who was working at the office at the time. She ran off and left him like immediately after the incident. She quit the intelligence life immediately after. And so, for various reasons, most of the suspicion falls on her. So Chris Pine goes to interview his ex-lover about this situation. And they have it over dinner. And it's this very intense dinner where they are both discussing the events of that fateful day, as well as the subtext of their past relationship and why things didn't work. And as they tell the tale, and as more pieces of the puzzle are revealed, deep secrets come to light, and all of it leading to a miraculous twist ending.
Oh, what a twist.
This is not a new thing. There are a lot of movies like this where pieces of a story are kind of brought up bit by bit. This is one of those movies that is not told linearly. You have kind of the linear storyline of him going to dinner with his ex-girlfriend, and we're meant to believe that is the present. That is what's happening now. It's also intercut with things that were happening back then, about 8 years ago. So as they're telling the story, you've seen a movie, you know how this works. As they're telling the story, you see these pieces kind of playing out. But we also have, every now and then, we jump kind of a flash middle, not quite all the way back, but a shorter trip back, like about halfway back, where Chris Pine went to interview Jonathan Pryce just prior to going and interviewing his girlfriend, and Jonathan Pryce is giving him more information, and these result in some flash sideways kind of thing. You start feeling like you're watching an episode of Lost eventually. So I think the thing I have to say right off the top is that it's a fascinating way to tell a story like this, especially one where you're trying to unfold and peel back information that happened eight plus years ago. And it's not entirely difficult to keep track of where we are in time and place. I know I know some people who hate this storytelling device, so they can never tell where they are, and I've had that experience myself. So I think when you're doing a flashback, flash forward, flash sideways, flash halfway, one of the key ingredients is making sure that the audience can keep track of where we are, and not just where we are, but what sequence things are happening in. What information have we not gotten already that, that is going to affect how we look at things later. It's a very Doctor Who, wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey kind of thing. And I think for the most part, they keep it fairly straight. You're able to follow it. There are one or two times you trip up a little bit, and you have to remember, wait, who is he talking to right now? Okay, that's what we're doing. So in that respect, I give it a lot of credit, because that's not an easy trick to do. I think the other thing that this film did really well, if I'm going to give this film any kind of praise, it's this. I think it does an excellent job of reinforcing the long-held knowledge that, the people who work in these intelligence industries, Jesus Christ, what a job. I mean, and how difficult that job really is. And you're making literal life and death choices and calls, trying to minimize loss, but with the knowledge that you're not going to save everybody. And the film does a really good job of kind of nailing home that a couple of different things. Number one, that it is a job to these people, that they're not superheroes, they're not James Bond. They're men and women who are doing the very best they can under the circumstances that they are presented with, which are never black and white and never straightforward. It's very easy to kind of yell at large government entities like the FBI or the CIA or whatever, And when you boil it all down, it's not to say you shouldn't blame them when things go belly up, but when you boil it all down, the thing you always have to remember is that they are just people doing the very best they can, making the best choices that they can. They're not demigods, they're men and women, to quote Ben Franklin. And I think this film does a great job of kind of pointing that out, that these folks were doing the best they can under really, really difficult circumstances. And they also do a great job of kind of showing just, that it does take a toll. And some people got to get out, and some people, and if you stay in, it very much kind of hardens you and makes you a very kind of dead-eyed person eventually. You kind of would have to, or else you go insane. So I think in that respect, the film does a really, really good job. I'm also going to say that in terms of storytelling, plot structure, and ultimate payoff, it's not bad. The twist ending,
What a twist.
is not one of the most harrowing twists. I think most people will see it coming. But what is a twist,
Oh, what a twist.
is the motivation behind it, which brings everything back to our central relationship. And I think that was really smart. As I said, the actual reveal as to who did the betraying, again, I won't spoil it here, though I don't know why I'm not spoiling it. No one's going to watch this movie. Is not that shocking, but the reason behind it does feel like a good payoff. So I give it that credit. So there it is. Those are the good things I can say about this movie. Everything else, I just spit a lot. I'm so sorry. Did a Daffy Duck. Anywho. Charming, right? Thanks for tuning in. Everything else about this film is not bad, but Lord Almighty, it ain't good. It is... Look, to make a film like this work, essentially this is a talkie picture. This is literally... Yes, you have an intense situation going on, but it is literally a bunch of people sitting around various locations just talking. If we were watching this on Mystery Science Theater, this would be a huge case of hypnoheliostatic stasis. So, when you have a script like that, when you have a story like that, and a film like that, what you need is a compelling script, really interesting characters, and dynamic direction. Those are the three things you have to make a talky, sit down, discuss our feelings, try to weed out the lies kind of story, interesting and compelling in a motion picture. Now, as a play, it may work a little better, I would think. But still, best example, I made the example of My Dinner with Andre, but, a better example, 12 Angry Men. 12 people in one room just talking and debating. That's what that movie is. And yet it's phenomenal. The play is phenomenal because it had great dialogue, great characters, and dynamic direction. It kept it interesting. It played with the claustrophobia of the room. It used it to its advantage. It made it part of the story. This film, unfortunately, has none of that. It does not have very dynamic direction. The direction is very stilted and basic. Nothing wrong with that. It's just very basic. The dialogue is not particularly fascinating or interesting or hooks you and drags you in. They're relying more on the structure, on the plot and the twists and turns to pull you in, and that's great. They're going with the Greek model of the plot being the most important thing, and none of the characters are particularly interesting. You get some decent energy when you have Jonathan Pryce or Lawrence Fishburne on screen, because it's Lawrence Fishburne and Jonathan Pryce. They are very energetic people. And then, of course, you have our lead actor, guy whose name is above the title, another film he executive produced. I really feel like he's trying to get himself out there and trying to break away from his whatever it is he's perceived to do. I don't know how well he's doing at that, but he's really trying. I got to give him a lot of props for that. But all this comes back to Chris Pine. And God almighty, Pine buddy. I really hate that this is the second Chris Pine movie I've watched in under a month. Because it really makes me feel like I'm just beating up on the guy. And I'm not intending to. I have nothing against him. He's probably a very nice man. And when you get right down to it, he's not a bad actor. He's just not very charismatic or energetic or interesting. And you can tell in this film he's really trying that Daniel Craig, stern, very little facial expression. When there is facial expression, you can tell he's putting on an act for whatever. And he's trying to do his tough guy voice. He's really trying to underplay it here, kind of like he was in The Contractor. And that's fine. That's the right choice. He fits well into the ensemble, I'll say that. I said this in The Contractor. I'll say it again here. He's much better in an ensemble than he is as the star above the title kind of thing. But I'm sorry. You're not Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig has got charisma. Daniel Craig has got energy. You want to watch Daniel Craig. He can make the moments more palpable and, find the little nuances. And Chris Pine, he just doesn't have it. This movie has no energy. It has no forward momentum. Again, it is relying solely on the intricacies of the plot and the interweaving stories and the who's lying and who's not aspect to keep you interested. And some movies can get away with that, and some movies need characters and actors that can, that can balance that. And this movie doesn't have any of that. Its two good actors are supporting characters. Now, if you imagine this film being Lawrence Fishburne and Jonathan Pryce having dinner and talking about this, then I could see this being interesting. It would make a very interesting twist on them being former lovers. But, we're in the 21st century. Sexuality is fluid. Stop being so Puritan. Knock it off. Well, don't judge them. But entrusting it to Pine, sorry, buddy. I'm sorry. It makes the film just dull and listless and, completely, just a complete drag to get through. The mystery is not interesting enough to keep my attention. I'm sorry. It just isn't. And yeah, that's all I've got to say. There's not a lot to get into. There's no great scene in it. There's no really dynamic performance. There's no powerful moment that lifts the whole thing up. There's nothing really memorable about the film at all. So, what do you want me to say here? What do you want me to say? Final grade. Let's just wrap this up. Let's just do it, because, what else is there to get into? Final grade for All the Old Knives. Shitty title, by the way. Shitty-ass title. I don't know what I would have called it, but anyway. So final grade, I'm going to C. Just general C. I respect it from the filmmaking prospect, and I think the script is really trying, but it just falls flat. I also have to say, this is neither here nor there, and has nothing to do with the final grade of the film, but as Chris Pine gets older and he starts getting gray in his hair and beard, the more he starts to resemble Pierce Brosnan, which is flattering, I think. I think Pierce Brosnan's a very handsome gentleman. But, unfortunately, he's got none of Pierce's charisma. So, if Pierce Brosnan had been in this movie, if Pierce Brosnan had starred in this film, it would have been fucking amazing. Even him just sitting there talking would have been fucking amazing, because Pierce Brosnan's that damn good. But, I'm sorry, Chris. I respect what you're trying to do. I respect that you're trying to produce these films and get yourself out there and show off your range. You don't have range, buddy. You got about as much range as a Daisy air rifle. Sorry. You need to start fading back, take supporting roles, and you can have a great career. You know, maybe there's a best supporting actor nod out there somewhere for you, but as a leading man, name above the title, I'm sorry, friend, you're always going to be overshadowed. You're just not that good. I'm sorry. Charisma is a thing that you either have or you don't. There you go. You know, all right, so I've beaten up on Chris Pine enough. I'm sorry, Chris. Again, nothing personal. So let's wrap this up. There it is. That's this movie. You're not going to watch it. Nobody's watched it. Why am I reviewing it? Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. Thanks for coming along. And as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.